Smithers had thwarted my earlier attempt to take candy from a baby, but with him out of the picture, I was free to wallow in my own crapulence. But the old axiom was misleading. Taking the candy proved difficult.
Hello, Simone! Today we are going to be going over the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare. We are going to go over the ethical arguments tied to the murder, the fallout of the murder, how the murder happened, the potential suspects at play.
Whoa.
Because it is a mystery. Some evidence points to the wife. I strongly disagree with this evidence.
Wow.
And we'll get to why. And how the murder was pulled off.
Let's get into it. This is juicy.
I mean, if we want to talk about like the insanity of the reaction to it, one of my favorite, like most comical parts of the reaction to it has been the reward put out for any information that leads to this guy by the police department. They put out a $10K reward.
Okay.
Nice. Nice.
Well, he murdered a CEO of United Healthcare.
This is serious. We need to track this student down and give him his luckiest boy in America medal right away.
And Simone, I will lay out the basic information, the moral dilemma here and how people are reacting to this first.
Okay.
Because I think that people are playing this like this isn't a real moral dilemma. It's like just never react with joy to a murder, right? Like never celebrate a murder. And yet people celebrated the murder of bin Laden. This person almost certainly kills more people per year than bin Laden killed in his entire lifetime. This is the best I have ever seen deontological ethics framed against consequentialist ethics. Because like, deontological ethics, this person was doing nothing wrong. They were doing their job.
Yeah, maximizing shareholder profit. Yes.
Everyone who died as a result of that was someone who they had killed legally.
Yes.
Slight caveat here, which muddies the waters a bit, is this guy was not even acting with fiduciary responsibility in the best interest of his investors because he defrauded his investors. We'll get to that in a second.
The person who assassinated them almost certainly lowered the number of random innocent Americans who will die over the next few years, even if just due to the trepidation of CEOs around making these kinds of decisions.
Right. So you basically think he's causing a chilling effect that will make other insurance company leaders nervous.
And to be clear, I'll put a chart on screen here, and you can see that they had over twice the number of claim denial rates of the average insurance company. This increase happened under his reign. It increased to 32%. This is Kaiser Permanente, the largest health insurance company, only denies 7%. Over the past 5 years, since this guy came into power, their denial rates tripled.
Tripled. Oh, tripled.
This guy came in 2021.
Okay.
When he came in 2021, the company only denied post-acute care by 10.9%.
So they were great when he started.
It was 22.7%. Now, obviously went up from there, but this is just one category. Yeah.
Ooh.
It is not at all an exaggeration to say this person's leadership and choices were killing, if you're talking about 57 million people under care, probably dozens of people a day.
Honestly, it's hard for me to deny this, considering those numbers. That is damning.
Yeah, that's really bad.
You want to know why I don't have a coterie of supervillains?
Why?
My coterie is 6 feet fucking under.
Batman doesn't kill people.
Because he's a pussy.
He's a dark creature of the night.
He's a jackass who wrestles with murderers dressed like clowns and throws them in prison so they can break out of prison and then murder more people. Riddle me this. How many people you think Batman's indirectly murdered by being too much of a candy ass not to kill these fools who clearly need to be smoked once and for all, you wrinkly, Shar-Pei-looking dementia-infested fuck?
But it's not just that. Here is an article. United Healthcare uses AI model with a 90% error rate to deny care based on a calculation on the percentage of payment denials reversed through internal appeals processes or administrative law judge rulings. As described by an ongoing class action lawsuit, brought by the estate of 2 deceased people. So 2 people who he killed, their families brought a lawsuit against him. Now, keep in mind, he also received a $10 million salary and spent millions on lobbying. And if you're wondering about the types of claims that United Healthcare was denying under his leadership, here is a letter that a doctor had to send him. Dear buttheads at insurance company,
this is medical lingo, to be clear. The butthead is a technical term. Sorry,
Yes.
carry on.
I have to take time away from my patients to inform you that you are idiots. This whole experience makes me want to vomit, but of course I wouldn't dare throw up without the approval of the insurance company, which brings me to my point. Already, you have decided that a child receiving chemotherapy has no reason to be nauseated, and this is in response to their denying nausea medication to a child who is likely going to die going through chemotherapy.
Oh, wow, that's a bad look. Oh, no. Huh.
And it's not just that. So I will, at the end of this, go over lots of individual instances here, but I'll just go over one anecdote here. And this was somebody who just yesterday, they had talked to for 2 hours on the phone with 7 to 8 different people at UHC, trying to figure out why they denied their 80-year-old mom's peripheral anagram. She has 60% blockage in her right leg. It has a lot of pain and now has to walk with a cane or a walker around my household, even short distances. Her cardiologist requested a prior authorization for it, but UHC denied it because, quote, she hasn't tried 12 weeks of PT, end quote. What? Basically, they're saying, yeah, she'd probably die within that amount of time, but whatever, like. And here what I'd say. So people are like, okay, but that doesn't, just because there is somebody out there legally killing probably tens of people every day, that doesn't give a sovereign citizen the right to go out and kill him. And then I would say, okay, so what's somebody supposed to do if they watched their daughter slowly dying in front of their eyes, or their wife, and they every day were filing with this company? Every day they were spending hours on phone calls with this company. They knew it was unjust, but they just didn't have the money to fight back. This company continued to take money from their family every single year. And you go to that individual and you're like, I'm sorry, other families have to experience this as well. And then the person says, well, then what am I supposed to do? And you say, well, you should let the legal system handle it.
I think it may be. Can you explain the thermonuclear bomb and ransom note found in your armored limousine?
Yes, I can. They were merely research for my novella. Give me money or I'll destroy your president. I'm a legitimate businessman who has been unfairly stigmatized. Why would I, a humble man, possess a cache of nuclear weapons capable of destroying the city 10 times over? No! I believe that truth and justice will prevail. The system works. And I have faith in the system. God bless America!
And I'd ask you, seriously, do you think that this guy will ever face any serious repercussions from the legal system for what he's doing?
No, of course not.
Do you think he's going to stop doing what he's doing? Do you think other CEOs are going to stop doing this more and more and more, and more people are going to watch their kids die, and more people are going to watch their spouses die slowly?
Yeah.
And
well, this is just a more violent, death-related version of what happened with the housing crisis and the financial crisis in 2008. We saw what happens to people who are very wealthy and well-connected when they do something provably wrong, even illegal in their case.
This is nothing more than a salty slab of justice jerky. Cut and dried. So, case closed. They say I'll skip this trial thingy and go home.
Okay, what he's trying to say is that we believe that truth and justice will prevail, that the system works, and we have faith in the system.
When do I get to hit him again?
This guy actually might have had a prison sentence in his near future, but it was for securities fraud, not killing people.
Oh, okay. All
because
right.
that's what the government cares about.
Yeah.
Okay? So, and I'll go, no, at some point you need to ask, like, okay, Nazis are taking over your country. Like, how bad do things need to get before you say they might be killing people legally, but at some point somebody needs to do something?
I used to think God put me here for a purpose, for peace. Lately I'm just thinking I'm a fucking maniac.
Do you think I feel good when after some dude does some atrocious act that I have to kill them? When I find out someone murdered an innocent person, or sold somebody heroin, or did some graffiti, and I kill that person with my bare hands, you think that gives me pleasure?
No.
Well, it does. What separates us from other killers is we only kill bad people. Usually. Unless there's a mistake. Now, do I sound like a fucking maniac?
So you might be like, well, the guy had kids and a wife, right? And I'm like, actually, they were separated and he wasn't living with them. And then you're like, okay, well, maybe he had like a good heart, like he gave to nonprofits or something. I looked, I can't find any nonprofit fundraising. I can't find any donations, major donations to nonprofit. And then you can say, okay, well, maybe this was just like, he just did this one thing and it was like his job and he like wasn't otherwise an evil person. No, he was in the process of being sued for defrauding a firefighter's pension fund.
How do you even do that?
Are you a real villain?
Well, technically, nah.
All right. I can see that I will have to teach you how to be villain.
Okay, so I can go into the specifics of this case. The Hollywood Firefighters Pension Fund fired a lawsuit against Thompson, alleging he had sold over 15 million of United Health stock, despite being actively aware of a Justice Department antitrust investigation into the health insurance company that he did not disclose with the investors or the public.
Oh, disclosures issue. Okay.
It erased 25 billion of shareholder value when it was released.
Oh, yeah, right.
Hold on.
Okay.
He sold 30% of his shares in the company as soon as they were under investigation.
He did? Oh,
yes.
Lord.
Without telling the investors. So he didn't even practice fiduciary responsibility. Hold on. Now you might be saying, okay. But it's not like he was stealing from every American taxpayer watching this right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you'd be surprised. Actually, for the second time in 1 month, the U.S. Justice Department sued United Healthcare Group for wrongfully obtaining $1 billion in Medicare. The Justice Department's involvement highlights the gravity of the situation. This is the second time they had done this.
Oh, wow. I know Doge is talking, and I guess Beck Ramaswamy and Musk are talking about unauthorized payments through Medicare and Medicaid. Maybe this is what they're referring to as well. Stuff that's going to both medical providers, but also insurance companies.
Basically, they were telling patients that their illnesses weren't severe enough to be worthy of stuff. But whenever a patient, they did give out money, they would then go to the U.S. government and exaggerate the patient's symptoms to get more money than they were giving out.
That makes sense. Again, this is an adverse incentives thing. They're doing what they need to do to maximize profits.
Hold on. Yeah, so you're here saying like, yeah, but this is just like indicative of the whole industry.
Yeah, I'm saying don't hate the players, hate the game.
They say, Malcolm, hold on, listen. They say, Malcolm, you're a monster. Imagine your father made hundreds of millions of dollars running an insurance company that dealt with life and death. Surely he would not be able to avoid scandal to provide for the family. Now, do you remember the company that my dad sold?
Yeah.
It's a life insurance company. It was a $19 billion company when he sold it. It was built by my great-grandfather, grown by my grandfather, and grown significantly by my father, who sold it. It was called the Fidelity Union Life Insurance Company. If you haven't heard of it, you may have heard of the U.S. branch of Allianz, which is what it transformed into after my dad sold it. And you might be like, oh, you rich kid, Malcolm. I inherited jack shit. When my mom died, I got $30,000 because my family believes in heavily donating money, heavily doing everything they can to give back to the country, being in Congress or donating lots of money. As you know, Simone, you see my family's plaque to all these museums we go to, but I don't have any of that money. And a lot of it was stolen as well. I'll admit that. But they were really big philanthropists with all this stuff. And they were never...
Your family gave a lot, and a lot more than I think is even normal among people who are wealthy. Certainly not the minimum required for taxes or whatever.
They were never involved in a major scandal. The only major scandal I could find, or lawsuit I could find, was an individual who was killed by a robber and they didn't pay out to his family. You can ask, why didn't they pay out to his family? Because he had stopped paying premiums. And the court decided in their favor and said, yeah, you don't pay to somebody who stopped paying premiums. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that seems like a fair deal.
And then they're like, well, certainly, your dad wouldn't have been a generally good guy outside of this. Well, he did win a 10 Young Outstanding Americans Award to recognize his honor and not just building lots of jobs for this country, but in one day, like the level of heroism of this guy is hard to overstate. There was a storm on Lake Texarkana one day, and he was out sailing and turned into like a big squall, and there were no other boats out there, and he had none of the safety rigging on his boat.
He had none of the rigging on his boat because he had already started to take down the boat for the end of the season and was just doing one final sail around the lake before going in.
And a big yacht thing started sinking, and it turned out it was a party boat. And so he goes and swims out from a sailboat without lines and rigging except for the ones for the sails to save everyone on the boat.
He could easily have died trying to save them. It's insane that he did this. It's amazing.
And to clarify, this wasn't like something he did before he was a rich person running an insurance company. This is something he did while he was in the position of CEO of the insurance company.
This is the point I'm making. It's not like you can't be a good person and run a company in an industry adjacent to this. By the way, if you're wondering the tricks to making money in the industry, like the reason my family did well in the industry, because you're like, wait, how could they possibly have done well if they tried to do everything ethically? They had two big innovations. One was that you would get stock in the insurance company when you paid your premiums, which motivated selling to your friends and stuff like that. And the other was, and they were the first people, I think, to ever do that, to like give stock in exchange for buying stuff. And then the other thing that they did was the primary sales tactic that they use, which is that life insurance is non-taxed. And so for specific wealthy individuals, they could sell it to them and say that this gets around the tax that your estate would otherwise get when you die, because it's an asset that's owned by the end person. And this is a strategy my dad actually developed, because before he was allowed to run the company, he had to go out and be a salesperson, and he actually became the best salesperson in the company. And that's what gave the board. His dad didn't want him taking over the right to put him in and get rid of his own dad.
That's so cool. Wow. I didn't know that.
But the point I'm making here more broadly is you don't have to be like, I am not against rich people. I am not against ultra capitalists. People know I stand for people like Elon all the time on this show. I have no animosity to this guy because he won in a capitalist system. I have animosity and moral questions because the core way he won was by taking money from people he was killing.
Yeah, and he could have done so many things to maximize shareholder profit that didn't involve that. He could have reduced bureaucratic bloat. He could have automated more. He could have streamlined his systems. He could have made the company operate better. And there's a lot of things. We use United Healthcare as our insurance provider. And I can tell from just my customer perspective that there's a lot they can do better just from an ops standpoint. And that's not what he was doing to maximize.
Yeah, well, but
profit.
it wasn't that he wasn't focused on signaling as a company what a good guy they were. While they might have been denying your kids cancer treatment or your grandma's, heart surgery, they were voluminously providing puberty blockers to underage kids.
Are you kidding me? Oh boy. Okay.
It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
Wow.
And this is where it gets interesting in terms of the fallout and reaction to this. I think many on the left are beginning to realize that they are the party that's protecting oligarchs, and they are surprised about this. Like Taylor Lorenz, the person who doxed libs of TikTok and an absolutely garbage person, has been cheering about this over and over and over again on her profile in Blue Sky and just getting absolutely dunked upon. Even on Reddit, and I'll put a story here, moderators have been deleting threads as doctors torch dead United Healthcare CEO. And people on these lefty platforms are like, wait, why are our leaders hiding anything that presents any sort of a moral argument around this? And I think that they're like, I hope some of them wake up and they're like, wait. Are we the bad guys? Are we the ones who are supporting the oligarchs who are killing children? Are we the ones who are that callous with human life so long as you follow the deep state's rules, so long as you aren't a threat to the existing order? Are we the ones who enabled all of this with Obamacare to begin with?
I've just noticed something. Have you looked at our caps recently? Our caps?
The badges on our caps. Have you looked at them?
What? No. A bit?
They've got skulls on them. Have you noticed that our caps have actually got little pictures of skulls on them?
I don't,
Hans, are we the baddies?
But
Wow.
I'll get into more specific, because it is really hard to say, like, as you said, we'll get into the specifics of what this guy did, that there weren't other ways he could have pursued increasing profits. Specifically, his strategy was just to deny more customers and to make it much, much harder to get things paid for. But I want to hear your thoughts, because you went into this telling me, Malcolm, do not make an argument that this is morally acceptable. Malcolm, do not make an argument that this is morally acceptable. Are you at all persuaded?
This is nothing more than a salty slab of justice jerky. Cut and dried. So, case closed. They say I'll skip this trial thingy and go home.
Listen, I hear what you're saying, but I'm also concerned about legal liability. And if someone who's a documented fan of ours goes on and assassinates some other leading unethical figure, I don't know, maybe there's a lawsuit in there, and I don't want to deal with that. So I want to make it very clear that we are officially saying it is a very bad idea to ever assassinate someone, no matter how justified it is, no matter how logical it is. Don't do it. We told you to not do it. If anyone says that you told us, or that we told you to do it, they're lying, because we're not. And this is a video of us saying that.
Okay, what he's trying to say is that we believe that truth and justice will prevail, that the system works, and we have faith in the system.
When do I get to hit him again?
Yeah, I would say that it is illegal to do, right? Like,
Yes.
it's definitely super illegal. And that I like that I live in a country where if this guy is caught, he would face the death penalty for this. And people can be like, wait, how could something be both something where you're like, well, there is an ethical question at hand here, and you're okay with the guy who did this facing the death penalty? If you are going to take justice into your own hands like this, you should be so certain that you are doing the right thing that you are willing to die for it.
Wait, and that is how breaking the law works, and that's how most people should be thinking about teaching their kids about laws, is that laws are price tags. A speeding ticket is a price tag. Sometimes it's worth it to pay that price tag. The death penalty is a price tag, and life in prison is a price tag. You should be aware of the price tags associated with breaking various laws.
But
and
here's
don't
the
see it as
problem
just
with
like
this-
either don't do it or do it. It's a trade-off.
Yeah. Here's the problem with this particular price tag in this instance, is
Okay.
it may have been cheesed. We don't know, and we'll get into this in a second. We don't know if the guy who killed him didn't have a terminal illness. He
Yeah.
may have been the one who was dying and being denied his claims.
That's true. Well, and that makes terminally ill people very dangerous when it comes to assassinations, because their price tag is very different. What
And
you
for
gonna
people
do?
who want to push back on this and be like, no, you should never break the law, you should never do this, I ask you a question. Would you murder Hitler? If Hitler was rising to power in your country, would you murder Hitler? And I
Hitler
think
would murder
almost
Hitler.
every sane person is going to say, I would murder Hitler, right? And I'd be like, well, murdering Hitler was against the law. And they're like, yeah, but he was going to kill a bunch of people in the future. And I'm like, well, what's the number of people for you where this tips? Like, when is it okay? How many people did...
See, this is the thing. This is the trolley problem. Again, is I think the vast majority of people, no matter how many people they could save, are not willing to pull that lever and personally be responsible for death, even if their act of killing someone or multiple people saves more people. Most people are not willing to, I don't know what percentage it is.
I agree with not being willing to, unless the situation is absolutely demonstrable. Because we as individuals do not have good vision into these things.
That's why it's the trolley problem, though. That is supposed to be in demonstrable situations where you see the trolley and you know.
The point I'm making here, and the reason why I would generally be against something like this, is because you don't know. You don't have insight into, is this person really responsible for...
Yeah, no, that's my whole thing is, even if he's the one making the call, he's going to be replaced by someone else who does this. That's where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to make a difference.
Do you think they would do it as brazenly?
I think they'd do it as brazenly with a lot of security. They'd never be out in public without a lot of security, maybe a bulletproof vest. Yeah.
I kind of feel like we as a society are getting to a point right now where, and I feel like this is what we saw with the Trump election, where the average American who's been stepped on by the system over and over and over and over again is just like, where are our great CEOs anymore? Where are the great, meaningful philanthropists anymore?
I mean, look at who's leading DOGE. And I mean, Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Donald Trump. I mean, a lot of people, he was elected originally in the election because they were like, I think he's a great CEO. I think he's a great businessman and I want him to run the country. I think that CEOs have
and this is
always been.
This is the point I'm making. When I say where are they? They're in this administration. They are the ones that have been targeted by the deep state, targeted by the urban monoculture. They are the ones who have been othered and made evil, while people like this are held up as paragons by the urban monoculture. Oh my God, you cannot feel anything other than horror and shame that this person was killed, is what they say. And then people will argue to me. They'll say something like, well, how can you decide like morality on your own? One person on Discord is like, how can you decide what's good and what's bad on your own?
Figuring things out for yourself is the only freedom anyone really has. Use that freedom. Make up your own mind, Rico.
I was like, but like my logic, like thinking through this. And then the individual was like, but your logic, you can't make like a logical argument about what's right and wrong. At the end of the day, you're just creating like one overriding deontological rule when you do that. You're still using logic to create an arbitrary judgment. And I'm like, well, here's the problem with that argument. If you deny my ability to choose what's moral based on my logic, using your logic, you have lost the argument because you have used logic to deny logic's ability to determine what's right and wrong.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Fun fact, Steve Davis, the guy who was the architect of the Twitter layoffs, did a real-life Willy Wonka-style giveaway of his first company, Yagato, ending up selling it for $1. Expect to hear more about this guy in the near future, but a great example of how you can be a good and efficient CEO without killing children.
But it's worse than that, because I don't think that any sane person sitting down is going to be like killing probably at least dozens of people every month, if not every day, people who are paying you, people who are innocent. That's a bad thing, right? Like that's a thing that you would want stopped in some way. And you might be right that this does nothing to stop it and the cycle just continues. But I guess what I'm saying is like, I get it. And people were also shocked when I said that was another potential assassination video, where I was like, and in the other case, I disagreed with the guy, but at least I could empathize with where he was coming from. In this particular instance, if it had been my kids or my wife, I, as a third party, am saying no, like horrible, don't do this. But I have the luxury to say that because I didn't watch my wife slowly die over the course of 2 to 3 years at the hands of somebody who is taking my money and spending it on luxury, the plane flights and $10 million salaries.
Yeah, $10 million. What do you even do with that much money? That's insane.
And by the way, this is what somebody says who works in this industry. They go, I've dealt with United Healthcare for years, doing peer-to-peer reviews, trying to overturn their systemic refusal to authorize covered benefits. This Brian Thompson was a criminal who led a criminal enterprise. This company is responsible for untold harm and deaths to their customers. Brian had it coming. I will sleep better tonight. This is somebody who, day in, day out, this is their job.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go into what actually happened with the assassination. We can go over the suspects, and then we're going to go into the argument that Brian Thompson had many other ways he could have extracted profit from the company and chose not to explore them and chose to just basically kill people in a way that I don't even think was long-term sustainable. I think United Healthcare will long-term suffer from the unsustainably abusive way he was treating his customers, and there's evidence of that as well.
So he even wasn't long-term maximizing shareholder profit. He was just
he wasn't. He was short-term maxing it to get a sellout, and then he sold 30% of his shares in the company as soon as they were under investigation.
He did? Oh,
yes.
Lord.
Without telling the investors. So he didn't even practice fiduciary responsibility, remember?
Oh, no. Okay, gosh, this just gets worse and worse.
Brian Thompson, the 50-year-old CEO of United Healthcare, was fatally shot and attacked on Wednesday, December 4th, 2024 in Midtown Manhattan, New York City. It was previously reported that the suspect used a city bike, which can be tracked, but the NYPD has clarified the incident did not involve that type of bike. The suspect had waited at the nearby corner all night until the executive walked by, according to witnesses. People knew he was going to be there because he was going to a shareholders meeting. And this, I think, blocks for me. A lot of people have been like, oh, this was a professional assassin. How did he know where the guy was going to be? How did he know what door he was going to be using? How did he happen to be there at just the right time? He wasn't there at just the right time. He was waiting there all night long. That is not something I think a professional assassin would have done. He was using public information to find the guy. It was public information that he was going to speak at this shareholder meeting. And we'll get into more in just a second. Witnesses told reporters they heard 3 shots as he was parking a car in the area. The 3 shots are actually really important because it tells you a part of how this was premeditated that the news hasn't caught on to yet for some reason.
Okay.
Just to go over a map here that I'll put on screen. This is a little out of date, but at 6:44 a.m., the victim was walking alone towards the New York Hilton Midtown after exiting his hotel across the street. Now, this is actually right near where we used to do our morning walks and everything in Manhattan, Simone. So you would have seen this if you're on a morning walk. You remember what the streets are like at around 6:44 a.m. They're pretty empty. A lot of people have acted like this is midday.
Yeah, there's a decent number of early morning commuters. Basically, all the working class people are out. And then the early risers of the white collar workers are out too. It's not totally unpopulated.
Shooter then runs into an alleyway between 54th Street and 55th Street. Then
and that's where we always stay, is on 55th Street. So this is exactly where we know everything.
Yeah, then the shooter, who was lying in wait alongside the building, fires at him. Once at 55th Street, the shooter continues to walk onto 6th Avenue, where he gets on an electric city bike. This part is wrong, by the way. And then the shooter rides north on through 6th Avenue towards Central Park. And then he disappeared at 6:48 a.m. in Central Park.
Wow.
So just 4 minutes after the shooting, he was disappearing in Central Park.
So efficient. So he shoots him, gets on a bike, rides up
No,
to
he
Central
didn't get on a
Park.
bike. People got that wrong, and they might have been tracking the wrong person.
Oh, wow.
That's what the NYPD is saying right now.
So on foot, he went to Central Park.
Maybe, or maybe that's tracking the guy who was on the bike, who appears in one image, but appears to have not been the suspect. Just another guy with a backpack like the suspects.
New piece of information that came out this morning is it found that the suspect using a fake New Jersey driver's license came into Manhattan on a Greyhound bus.
The suspect was wearing like a mask that didn't even look conspicuous. It looked like what you would wear on a cold day in New York, and a hoodie that looked like what you would wear on a cold day in New York.
Yeah.
He was wearing a black hoodie and black pants with a gray backpack, and he approached Thompson from behind, and you can watch the video of this, and he shot him once in the leg. The gun then doesn't cycle. It does not jam, as some reports have said. It doesn't cycle. He does what you do when a gun doesn't cycle, and the reason it didn't cycle is likely because he was using both a silencer and subsonic ammo, and it appears that the person had practiced enough to expect this to happen. He taps the gun a few times, redoes, I don't know that much about fixing a gun like this, redoes, I think, like recocks it and then shoots again. But what I do know is this caused live ammunition to come out of the gun. So a lot of people say there was 3 casings at the scene, but there was also 3 live bullets found at the scene. Now, this becomes interesting because on the casings / live bullets was written 3 words. The words were, and we'll get into the potential meaning of these in a second: deny, defend, depose. Now, where this gets interesting is he only shot 3 times. So he didn't expect the gun to jam like this, which meant some of the words would have been on the jammed bullets, which would have come out before the shell casings, which meant that he went into this planning to shoot 3 times to create this message.
Wow.
For some reason, the 3 shots had a significant to this guy.
Yeah, well, and that implies heavily, like you were saying, that he's not a hitman. This is personal. Unless, because it seems like a big ask if I'm hiring a hitman to also demand in such a high maintenance fashion that you must also inscribe on the bullets my special message. I mean, that would be an added fee of quite.
So experts suggest the shooter's actions indicate that he may be a practiced and seasoned trained professional killer, possibly with law or military experience. However, what is not believed, which is interesting, is that he was a professional hitman. This does not appear to be a hitman to me. Everything was possible with public information. And the way that he waited all night at the location just doesn't seem very hitman-y to me. Also, the 3 bullets to me seem symbolic of something.
Well, since there's something written on them, otherwise I was assuming, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard somewhere that in standard police training, you were told to shoot chest, head when you're trying to.
Maybe. He also, I mean, very non-hitman-y things is he was videoed at a local Starbucks buying stuff beforehand.
Oh, what did he get? Egg bites?
He dropped a water bottle and cell phone that are believed to be dropped by the suspect, and they're checking for DNA.
Oh, no.
And
that's so basic. Oh, that's great. I want to know what he ordered.
Let's talk about the 3 words, because I've read a number of potential things that they could have meant.
Okay.
Deny, this could refer to the denial of insurance claims or coverage by United Healthcare. This is, I asked AI what it thought. Defend, this term may relate to the company's efforts to defend its policies or practices, possibly against criticism or legal challenges. And depose, in a legal context, this often means to give sworn testimony. It could indicate that the shooter wanted Thomas for questioning or accountability. I do not buy that. Some people have claimed that this is a sign that it was somebody trying to keep him from giving damning evidence during the deposition that he was about to go to. That it was like a sign by other people in the healthcare industry. I highly doubt that this is the case, just given how hard it would be for a random wealthy person to hire a hitman. That actually doesn't really happen that much. Even when you look at something like Epstein, I won't say that I might have inside information into that, but if I did, one of the Middle Eastern ruling families, which would have access to hitmen very easily, and one of the ones who is known to have used hitmen in the past. And so there wouldn't have been any trouble for them doing this. But if you're like a random other insurance company CEO, would you really risk hiring a hitman? Like that's wildly risky for something that was a security violation, not even questioning like their record or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I note here that the payout from this lawsuit was going to be $5 million. That's what was expected in the articles I read. This guy's salary was $10 million a year. Do you really think he's going to be assassinated over a $5 million lawsuit?
Now, the one that I found to be most powerful in terms of the arguments as to what this was about is it's specifically written in reference to a book. So the book is called Delay, Deny, Defend, which is about how corrupt the insurance industry is. And it's the most famous book about how corrupt the insurance industry is.
Well, okay.
And about what the 3 Ds mean. Delay, insurance companies intentionally slow down claim processing by requesting extensive documentation, creating technicalities, or declaring claims under investigation. This tactic benefits insurers by allowing them to hold on to money longer for investment gains and exhausting claimants into giving up. So for people who don't understand this, a company on average, even if they're only extending the length that they have the money, like by 4 months or 3 months, they get additional money from it because the money makes money for them over time. So they have a reason just to delay. It doesn't matter if you're suffering. It doesn't matter if your relatives are dying. Deny, claims are often
it's almost better if they're dead because they won't bother you anymore. So wait them out.
You can delay until they die. You don't have to pay it out. Deny, claims are often outright rejected, sometimes based on arbitrary or fabricated reasons hidden in the fine print. Denials discourage claimants from continuing to pursue their rights. And defend. If delay and deny fail, insurers might aggressively defend against claims in court. This tactic prolongs resolution and burdens claimants with legal costs and time, deterring many from pursuing valid claims.
It's just another way to delay and make it extra expensive to do so.
Yeah. So what's interesting is the last word. So if it was in reference to this, he's saying basically you delayed, you denied, I depose. If the standard is delay, deny, defend. What he's basically attempting to do is rewrite the last part of this.
You delayed, you denied, I deposed
I
with my
deposed.
bullets. Well, goodness.
So, if you're wondering what I was talking about earlier, he was big on DEI integration in his company. He was a big supporter of LGBTQ plus communities, offering gender affirming care to minors. He created a workforce diversity group that implemented DEI focused strategies for underrepresented groups, like the DEI executive sponsorship program to give an unfair advantage to anyone in a protected class within the company. They also did training seminars and stuff like that. And the company gave $100 million to diversity initiatives instead of to your dying family members.
Not ideal.
Okay. So now we're going to go into the argument that what he was doing was above and beyond and not normal for someone in his position, which I think is important. If he was just acting like everyone else in the industry, I'd be like, look, this is an industry problem, right? Not a he specifically was an extra evil person problem. So United Healthcare had the highest claim rate among major health insurance companies, with approximately 32% of claims being denied. If you look at other insurers, Anthem is 23%, Aetna is 20%, CareSource is 20%, Millennia is 19%.
We've had United Healthcare mostly uninterrupted for the past 7+ years, and it's been awful. We had 1 6-month period where just I was on Aetna, and I felt like I lived in a different world. It was so
yeah, no, I remember that. Oh, and keep in mind how bad this is. Kaiser Permanente, the largest health insurance company, only denies 7%.
Oh, that's why people are so obsessed with Kaiser. I've always wondered about that. We know a decent number of people, because I think Kaiser is a big insurer in California, who, despite leaving the state, choose to maintain residency in California, which means paying California state tax, which is insanely high, just to maintain their Kaiser insurance, because it's financially worth it at that point, considering how much they cover. You can't leave, basically. It's the golden handcuffs of insurance.
Remember, this guy came in 2021.
Okay.
When he came in 2021, the company only denied post-acute care by 10.9%.
So they were great when he started.
It was 22.7%. Now, obviously went up from there, but this is just one category. Yeah, they were almost as good as Kaiser Permanente when he started.
Oh my God.
In 2022, United Healthcare denied prior authorized requests for post-acute care at rates that were 3 times higher than the denial rates for all other types of prior authorization requests.
Ooh.
It is not at all an exaggeration to say this person's leadership and choices were killing, I think, if you're talking about 57 million people under care, probably dozens of people a day.
Honestly, it's hard for me to deny this, considering those numbers. That is damning.
Yeah, that's really bad. I thought you might start to change your mind as this episode goes on.
Yeah.
Because I went into this being like, no, the public shouldn't have a right to just shoot a rich guy because he's corrupt. They shouldn't have a right to shoot a person because his company, maybe dumped toxic waste somewhere, and then that ended up causing some issue in a community or something. Like, maybe he didn't have any say in those particular policies. Maybe he had no ability to know that was happening. I know our employees have done unethical stuff that we've tried to stop in the past. That is not the case here. This guy specifically transformed the company in an unethical direction in a way that milked more profits by killing people. And we'll go over just how much more profits he was able to rake in as well.
I have to say, when I first saw the news, I misread and thought that the headline was Brian Johnson.
That would be so sad. Nice guy.
Like, yeah, that's like driving over the Nazca lines. Like, he's trying to live forever. Okay, he's doing a big human experiment here. Don't. This is the beautiful thing. Don't mess it up. Like, let him try. Don't drive over the Nazca lines. Don't deface the Washington Monument. Don't trample around giant sequoia trees that are, hundreds and hundreds of years old, and don't kill Brian Johnson. But this is a little different.
Okay, so he came in 2021. So if you're looking at their gross profits, you can see they were growing slightly before this. Okay, so 2020, 67 billion, and then 2021, 69.65 billion. So if you look at like before he came into power, it was growing from like 67 billion one year to 69.65 billion the next. That sounds like normal management, right? He comes in, it goes from 69.65 billion to 79.62 billion, and then the next year to 90.9 billion.
Oh, wow. I mean, okay, are there any other things he did that could have boosted profits aside from denying? I mean, the percentage in denied care does seem to go up.
No.
I'm
We'll
trying to
go
figure
over
out
how
he
it went
really
up over his
justified
reign
this
as
to himself.
well.
Okay.
In 2023, they grew 12.7% year over year.
In
If
profit.
you're a CEO, you know that's not normal.
That is not.
That's like you're doing something amazing, not at a company like this, not at like a basic insurance company.
Yeah, maybe in a growth phase startup for sure. That is to be expected. Not at United Healthcare.
I'm just gonna drop in another random anecdote here. Somebody's saying, even though I pay for a top tier plan with United Healthcare, they sent my daughter a letter explaining that they denied a claim for a one-night stay at a hospital that literally saved her life. Also, my daughter was 4 years old at the time, and the letter was addressed to her.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, little girl, little 4-year-old. It's a little shame that you didn't die. We were hoping that would, because you don't pay, you're under your father's plan. It's demonstrably good for them if the 4-year-old dies because she's not paying for healthcare. So, I don't want to go into the insider trading allegations.
Well, no, I mean, keep in mind, like parents pay their kids premiums. It costs extra to have a kid on your plan. They're being paid for it.
Oh, do kids cost extra? I thought that kids.
Oh,
have to be
no. You pay for your kids. Kids cost extra. Kids.
All right. So
dependents.
remember how I was talking about that AI that was making mistakes? So the lawyer alleges that the United Healthcare knew the algorithms had an extremely high error rate and that it denied patients' claims knowing only a tiny percentage, 0.2%, would file appeals to try to overturn the insurer's decisions. The complaint alleges that the algorithm, dubbed NH Predict, has a 90% error rate based on a calculation on the percentage of payment denials reversed through internal appeals processes or administrative law judge rulings. So it had an error rate, the AI that they were using to deny people, of 90% false positive.
That makes so much sense. I mean, consider that a lot of companies build off this business model, right? They get you to sign up for the free trial and assume that you'll never check your subscriptions and keep paying for them until you discover 5 years later that you've never used them and you don't want to pay for them. And I'll admit, when we get bills, and we've been denied coverage for things, I don't have the time to spend pushing back for months and getting on the phone and constantly calling. And there are people I know who do, but also they're homekeepers, like they're homemakers, I should say. Like their full job is to take care of the family and the home and the family's finances. If I had that luxury, maybe I could, but like it is a job to do that. And our family can't do that. I imagine most families don't have a full-time person at home to manage the home's finances and bills and to fight back on behalf of the family to do things like this. Similarly, for example, with, how there are these do not call lists that technically you shouldn't be called by spammers. You can actually pursue them, get on the line, find out who they are, and then make legal claims against them and actually make a decent amount of money. Like there's one stay-at-home dad who makes this his like side hustle. He like finds them and he gets money from them breaking rules. But again, that is a decent investment of time. And unless you are only part-time employed or mostly at home caring for kids or family or on your own, just handling a household, then you can't do it. So I should say it's a smart business model because you can depend on most people not having the resources to fight back.
Well, hello there. Looking to get some insurance?
No, my friend's mom already has insurance with your company.
Oh, great. You're here to pay your bill.
No.
Oh, you want money from us. Right through that door over there. Hello. Let
Let me just speak with our medical director first. Yeah, okay.
Who was that?
That was the medical director.
But you didn't say who the patient was or what was wrong with him.
Right. The medical director's job is just to say no.
Look, my friend's mom has been paying you people for years.
I didn't realize I was dealing with someone who had so much determination. If you do a little more work, so all you have to do is navigate the American healthcare system.
Let's navigate the American healthcare system.
Just fill out these forms?
I just filled them out the last place. It's so much fun to be getting it done. We go back to the doctor to get that thing for insurance, then go back to insurance. We're filling out forms, and we're scanning those forms, and then we're emailing those forms to get them back to insurance.
But that's really evil to like make a company that promises services and then banks on the fact that your customers will not have the wherewithal to fight back when you mistreat them.
Especially when those services are life-saving.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's one thing if you're giving them shoddy light fixtures or, you know, low thread count sheets that aren't as good as you promised, or your clothing falls apart after 3 washes. This is, you're right, people's lives. That is horrible.
When you hear about the little kid going through chemotherapy, being denied nausea medication.
Yeah, that's
like, are you just like,
that's sick. It's sick. Yeah.
It's sick in the extreme. It's like, when I compare this guy to Nazis, it's like Himmler experiments and stuff like that. It's like really, and they would regularly deny pain medication if the pain lasted longer than it was supposed to. This was another thing they got in trouble for a lot, that they would just turn off anesthesia if the person felt pain longer than the like minimal supposed period they were supposed to be feeling it.
And this is part of what makes me so mad when people are like, well, you should be handling this through the legal system. You know, let the laws handle this. They were breaking the laws. United Healthcare faced a Department of Labor lawsuit for denying claims based solely on diagnosis codes rather than patient need, violating the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, ERISA, but then went back to doing that after the case. In fact, the U.S. Senate subcommittee has scolded United Healthcare for denying prior authorized requests for extensive post-acute care at 3 times the rate of other such requests.
I'm sorry, but the
U.S. Senate subcommittee
must be firm with you, or else.
Or else what?
Or else we will be very, very angry with you, and we will write you a letter telling you how angry we are.
Good.
Briggs, how you like that, you fucking cocksucker? You have any idea how fucking busy I am, huh, Briggs? Well, fuck you! You congratulations, Team America! You have stopped nothing.
And keep in mind, this denial was being done by an AI which got it wrong 90% of the time, and the company knew that and kept using it.
So, no, it was horrifying what they were doing. And this is what I'd ask people who want to push back on this a lot on me.
Now, do I sound like a fucking maniac?
Right? I ask, because they're like, how dare you say that we should live in a society where if somebody has their family murdered by a legal mass murderer, that they should be able to go to a store, buy a gun, and assassinate that person, and then face the death penalty for that. Like, what a horrifying society that would be to live in. I'm like, bitch, that's the society the founding fathers created. That's the society you're living in right now. What you're forgetting is the last part of what you just said, and then face the death penalty for it. I'm not okay with this being legalized or something. I'm just saying that I also am not saying that if you look at the like vast weight of this, and this is where I ask somebody who really pushes me back. How many additional people do you need to have very strong evidence a person is going to kill before, because clearly you're like, okay, Hitler is okay. So where did you draw the line? How many people do an individual's decisions need to lead to dying with them knowing that that is the outcome of their decisions before you're like, okay, this is where I react? And some people never react. Many people, you know, in Germany, they just went along with it to the end. I know that that's not who my family is. I know that when the South seceded from the Union over slavery, as I mentioned before, 15 of the 50 founding members of the Free State of Jones were direct relatives of mine, either siblings of an ancestor of mine or kids of siblings of an ancestor of mine. So when the South is like, we're going to fight for slavery, my family was like, no, fuck you. We'll kill you. We're going to start a separate state and we'll kill all of you. I don't care what you're fighting for. I don't care that you say it's the law. It's immoral.
You won't miss this, though. I knew your daddy.
And some people just aren't built that way. And I think that fundamentally the type of person who sees something like this and is like, no, what the shooter did was demonstrably wrong in every way it could conceivably be looked at. These are the types of people who support Hitler because he rose to power legally. He rose to power as an elected official. These are the people who, when the camps start, they're like, well, it's all being done through legal means. You know, there is nothing to them that is unethical other than what is said to them. What is said by the local authority that defines their ethical system, and they're not able to say, oh, and so I say to this person, everybody who wants to push back on me on this, I want one thing in your reply where you're pushing back to me. I want you to define the difference between if you would have, now you can say in your reply, I would have been not done anything about Hitler's rise to power, not done anything about it at all. But if you're the type of person who thinks that you would have tried to stop it, or even stop it after it started, after the Holocaust camps were going, and every additional day meant more people were dying, what's the number of people for you that have to differentially die because this person stays alive? What's the number? Like, what's the difference in Hitler between this guy for you?
Well, I would also observe that if people begin to feel like they're living through societal collapse, and that if a crime is committed against them, or if they are wronged in some way, there's no recourse, vigilante justice is going to fill that void. And we are starting to get to that point. I think things may start to break soon, where there's so much shoplifting, there's so much petty crime that's not being prosecuted. There is so much of this feeling. And again, like when there were gunshots outside our house, nobody in our immediate vicinity who heard them called the police, because why would police come? We just, this kind of this feeling.
You think where this guy lives, if he called the police, they'd come? They'd come. They'd come because he's rich.
Yeah, well, but I think what I'm saying is, if the average citizen feels like they have no legal recourse if they were to fight a big company like this, they have no protection from the law if they're personally at risk, then when it comes to things like them feeling physically threatened, personally threatened, or seriously wronged by businesses, they will take justice into their own hands after they've reached a breaking point. And maybe you're right. Maybe we're reaching a tipping point in society, not just where people are realizing that there's kind of a moral calculus that makes the price worth it for them, but also reaching a point at which they feel like they genuinely have no other choice, because what used to be a viable pathway to pursue justice through legal avenues is no longer there. That the justice system doesn't serve anyone but the extremely wealthy anymore. And for them, it's just a series of cheat codes.
The deep state bureaucrats. I mean, if you look at the Trump sentencing, where you know, everyone going on about how he's a felon, and as we've pointed out, he got a felon for not labeling his prostitute hush money payments as prostitute hush monies, like in his filings. They're like, oh, that's insane. That's insane that you would give someone a felony for that, especially when you consider that we know that Kamala Harris' husband also was paying hush money payments to the nanny for having knocked her up, her housekeeper, Do you think that he was labeling those correctly? No. So why is Trump a felon and Kamala Husband not a felon? It's because Trump is at odds with the deep state bureaucracy. This isn't about the rich versus the poor. This is about those against the oligarchs and the bureaucrats who, for example, I love that the Dims pretend like Elon Musk is some sort of like insider oligarch guy. No, they fucking hate him. If Kamala had won, his company would have been out of power. They were denying what's his spaceship company thing over like, well, if it comes down, it might hit a whale. It might hit a shark.
Oh, the whale debacle.
Yeah.
Sex Malcolm.
SpaceX. Yeah. It might hit a whale. It might hit a shark. It's like, what? You know that this is just a bureaucrat trying to take down another person. They have, and you know that, okay, they're like, well, now Elon Musk is running the government, right? Like now he's running a department with Vivek. Yeah, but he created a sundown on this department he's running. It self-dissolves before this administration is even over. He's not trying to create institutional power in the way that the deep state did, in the way that it protected these oligarchs time and time again. There's a reason why Kamala raised over 3 times as much as Trump in this last election cycle. What was it, over $1 billion she wasted on her campaign?
Yeah. The reports did not look great.
But I do agree with you. We do not condone this action. This man was a monster and a very, very, very bad person.
Wait, which one are you referring to?
I'm just trying to like go through the ethics of a decision like this, because I think that when I look at the other places this has been talked about, everyone's like, it's obviously unethical because it's against the law. And I'm like, well.
Oh, yeah. Laws and no.
Like,
laws are about maintaining social order, and they work on average, but not always.
The same people are like, obviously what the insurance guy was doing was ethical because it was within the law. And it's like, well, I mean, obviously sometimes laws are wrong, right? Like, I don't think the insurance guy should have been allowed to run his company the way he was running it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I think that was horrifying that was happening. Like, do you think that people should just be going around doing vigilante justice? No, but I do think that people should stop Hitler. So it's like, where's the line, right? Like, how bad does a person need to be before you need a Batman?
Yeah. Did Batman ever pursue corrupt capitalists in the shows or movies? I'm trying to think.
Oh, Superman certainly did with Lex Luthor.
Okay.
I actually want to see an episode. I'll see if I can find an episode of any shows, and if I can't find one, maybe somebody can talk about it in the comments, where the villain in a superhero show was doing everything legally.
Yeah, that's the key.
Out how do they handle this when the person is murdering people legally?
Yeah.
I just personally, I'm like, I keep going through because so many people in the comments and Reddit and stuff, they were sharing stories about how like they watched their life slowly die as her claims kept being denied. And if I had seen that happen to somebody who I deeply cared about, right, and I had watched them slowly die over the course of years, and every day I was sending in claims, what would I do?
Lose it. Yeah, you'd lose it.
I'd lose it. I'd effing lose it if somebody, especially knowing that every year I was paying the person who was killing her, paying them on the off hope they might do the right thing this time. Yeah. That they were taking money from her and from me while watching her die, just so this guy could go on more fancy vacations. Now I want to talk about who maybe did this, because a lot of people have pointed out, oh, I think it's the wife. One, they were separated. And 2, she immediately made an announcement that had weird wording, like "we were shattered to hear about." And then
3, he has kids too, right? I mean, theoretically, the wife and the kids would be shattered.
Yeah, that they lived in a separate house and everything like that. And there have been rumors that maybe he had started a divorce proceeding. Now, that would have been an absolutely good reason to do something like this. I don't mean like a good, like ethically good.
Well, no, but financially logical, because if you're getting a divorce, then I mean, presumably in all of their estate planning, normally stuff goes to the spouse first. If you know,
if you look at the age of the kids who look quite old. These are like late teen kids, okay?
Oh.
To me, that implies that their marriage must have been at least around 10 years. If you look at when he became CEO, that was in 2021. If you look at when he made most of his money, that was pretty recently. And they lived in Florida. Now, I happen to be aware of how prenups work in Florida, and they are extremely strict.
Yeah.
If she got a divorce and they had a prenup,
She'd
she
get
could
nothing.
literally leave the relationship with exactly the amount of money she brought into the relationship if she was not.
Wow. Oh, yikes. Yeah.
It would be very easy to plant the blame on this guy. You know, she also said some stuff that was like intentionally like sort of hiding that she didn't quite understand how the industry worked when she apparently works as a doctor as well. So she wouldn't have been that poor. I think she was a doctor. But, you know, she said some stuff that looks like she was hiding some things. Here's my thought on this. I think if she was the one who did it, she probably would have done it herself in some way. It's just too hard to hire hitmen safely. It's not
Especially if you're a doctor. I feel like there are plenty of ways that you will know to slowly kill someone away in a way that they won't detect.
Yeah, with the way that's not easily detectable by morgues and stuff like that, heart attack, something like that. If you're a doctor, you have access to the drugs to do that way easier than hiring a hitman, which is really
presumably. Although I imagine a lot of people are too cowardly to do it themselves. So,
I'm just saying, hiring a hitman is difficult and really dangerous to do because you've got to. How do you even do that? Like you have to know like a mob.
Well, you have to live with the liability of knowing that they know, so they could always blackmail you, and she would end up with a lot of money, so there'd be an incentive to blackmail her. So yeah, I guess if I were in her place and I wanted to kill my husband, I would find, especially considering her medical knowledge and that she could probably get access to medications. Yeah, it would make sense for her to do it. Plus, the words on the bullets, that just seems so odd.
I mean, no, that would have been a good way to cover it. I mean, your husband's CEO of like an evil company.
Oh, so make it look like it was a disgruntled United Healthcare
problem. It also, this is what I think it was.
Okay.
I don't think it was a family member of someone aggrieved. I think it was a genuine vigilante. Here is why. If it was just a family member of someone bereaved, there are a ton of other insurance companies. And while they may deny claims less amount of the time, if you take them all together, it's probably more, maybe even double the amount that United Health denies claims. So why did it happen to be one of them? Why did it happen to be a guy who apparently has never done a good thing in his life, recently defrauded a firefighter's pension, and ran a company that he had run super evilly in the time that he ran them in a way that there's like no moral argument to be made in his defense? I almost get the impression somebody was looking for an excuse to be a vigilante and wanted to play out a superhero role.
Do you think I feel good when after some dude does some atrocious act that I have to kill them? You think that gives me pleasure?
No.
Well, it does.
And I don't know. I often ask myself, why haven't there been more vigilante superhero-like characters in our society? Why haven't there been more...
that guy who literally dressed up in superhero costumes? And...
No, but I mean, in an entire society that grew up reading superhero books and stuff like that, why haven't there been people who just like took a book and said, I'm going to find the most evil person who's getting away with it in this country, and I'm going to do something about it? Now, in the superhero movies, it's easy. Those are crime bosses and stuff like that. In the real world, the FBI is going after crime bosses. You know, the police are going after crime bosses. You're not going to get after them in the same way that other organizations are. So if you sat down and say, I'm going to be a vigilante crime fighter,
who can't the government or Justice Department or FBI or CIA get?
Then you read some book, like the book this guy likely read, and you're like, oh, and that's the thing. The book is what gets me. This seems maybe motivated from reading a book where the guy's like, I don't really value my life. And how many people don't value their lives anymore? The amount of nihilism.
I mean, that's pretty pervasive. Yeah.
I might be able to incrementally make this better for dozens to hundreds of families that are watching their loved ones die unnecessarily every month.
Or even just provide them with some solace, some feeling of justice when I'm sure, you know, that when anyone in your family is suffering from a terrible illness, you kind of feel like the world is just so deeply unfair, and the existence of this guy adds insult to injury. Maybe it's just one moment of, hey, at least there's that for all these people.
And yeah, and one thing I'd say is I do feel very deeply for the family of everyone he denied healthcare to. I'm sorry. What I'm saying is, look, this guy had kids. Sad that their dad died, but they're inheriting tens of millions of dollars that they stole from dying people. Are they giving that money back? Are they giving it to philanthropy like my family did? No. So, like, why am I supposed to have an additional amount of sympathy for them? You could say, have they done something wrong? Yes, they've kept the blood diamonds.
This place is ugly anyway. You and me, we're family.
Promise never. They may choose to not do that in the future, in which my moral judgment of them will change in the future. But as of now, my moral judgment of them is just neutral. You know, people have their parents die for nonsense reasons all the time. You can't be like, oh, because this person had kids. If he was actively involved in raising the kids, fine, but he didn't seem to be. He was separated and living in a different house. And so I have to say, why do his kids matter so much more than the dozens of other kids that were left parentless every year? You know, like, what? Explain, like why? And so this comment section is going to be a bloodbath. I haven't seen any public figure really come down as harshly on one side of this as I have. I know that this is an unpopular stance. I know that a lot of people will hate me for this stance. I know a lot of wealthy people will hate me for this stance. But I think that we need to like grow a moral backbone as a society again. And say either if politicians want to bitch about this, which they have been bitching about people being happy about this, it's like, why didn't you make what he was doing illegal then?
Yeah.
That's your job, politicians, making this shit illegal.
We will be very, very angry with you. And we will write you a letter telling you how angry we are.
Well, I mean, there's this huge conversation about the healthcare industry in the United States anyway. I mean, the fact that we allow the existence of insurance companies that have caused all healthcare costs to balloon as much as they have is insane. So, I mean, any policymaker who's morally negatively judging people who are celebrating this assassination should instead be focusing on fixing a very broken healthcare system in the United States.
Why
They're
does
also
why
culpable.
does the average American, why on every single Reddit thread I saw about this, which judges like the average opinion of people, why were they all happy about this? Why everywhere I go online, where it's looking at average sentiment, in the Facebook reacts here, you had 25K laugh crying reacts to 2K sad crying reacts and 1.7K care reacts.
Oh dear. I mean, there's a bunch of elements to this, right? There's the anti-capitalist element. So a lot of people are just excited because they hate all capitalists. Anyone who works for or makes money from a large corporation is seen
I am not
inherently
that
as
person.
evil.
I believe in decent capitalism.
Yeah, you're not that person. Yeah.
Involved in it for generations. You can be a capitalist without killing people.
Yeah. But I mean, I think a lot of people are reacting just to that. And then a lot of other people have experienced United Healthcare and they're, for obvious reasons, very happy about that. It's just, it's messed up. Glad it wasn't Brian Johnson, because that scared me for a moment.
Yeah, I think there are very few people in the world who I would be like, but I'm not sure. Like an example of another group, the people who okayed and hid how dangerous they were giving to people was in this country.
The
Basically,
Sackler
one
family
that did this. They own the companies that did this. Their companies obscured that it was dangerous. They got tons of people addicted to it, and they basically single-handedly caused the addiction crisis, which is bigger than any addiction crisis our country's ever had. You can see our episode on this.
I am justice. I am vengeance.
Bruce Wayne?
What?
Oh my God.
What?
Yeah, you're
No.
Bruce Wayne.
How? Why could you even say that?
Your goatee.
Maybe I'm just copying Bruce Wayne, because he's like the coolest guy in Gotham.
I mean, he's not that cool. He's just rich.
Oh, this is the classic discrimination that handsome billionaires face every day. He doesn't actually have $1 billion, dumbass. Most of his fortune is invested in Wayne Enterprises.
And does Wayne Enterprises happen to make dark armored vehicles?
Yeah, but mostly opioids.
Oh my God. Really?
And opioid addiction recovery pills.
Oh my God.
You're so stupid.
You're a villain.
Ha! Save your jokes for the jokester.
Yeah, they're famously.
There are
things
other
they hated.
instances where I'm like, but there's few. They're few.
Well, and they've done it already. This guy was still doing it.
Yeah, and that's also differently. Like
And the
they
Sackler
already
family also
caused
has
damage.
been successfully prosecuted. I mean, you could argue no one could put a price on the damage they've done, but they have paid a lot of money and been quite
This is what
dragged
gets me
through the
also
mud.
is he was ramping up these efforts. So
Oh, he was leaning into it, was he? Oh dear. Okay. Didn't realize that.
Well, no, I mean, if you look at the gross profits.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, he certainly wasn't changing his stance and suddenly
No, he was increasing it, is the point I
Yeah.
was making.
Yeah,
Like this
yes,
is something
yes,
that,
yes.
and if this continued within his company, other companies in the industry would follow it. Why not?
Yeah, just like when American Airlines decided to become antagonistic toward travel agencies, and then everyone
And
was
then all
like,
the other agencies were like, "Oh, you
"Oh,
can do that?"
yeah, let's throw them under the bus." Yeah,
And then they've all
but
stopped in reverse because they realize, oh, you can't actually be a dick to your customers in that
Oh,
way.
yeah, didn't work.
But for him, being a dick to a customer isn't a travel agency going out of business. It's a person's mother dying or kid dying.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Did I change your mind on this, Simone, or are you?
I will never advise anyone to assassinate anyone or break any laws whatsoever, but I 100% understand the mirth in response to this assassination. And yeah, wow. That it just saddens me to think how many people have been hurt by these corporate policies. That's really heartbreaking. But
all right.
I also just hate the healthcare system. I mean, the problem is the United States healthcare system. I wouldn't want to do healthcare in another country, right? It's really good here. The quality of care, the technology, it's the hospitals. It's great. I love it, right? But then I wish that we could just have that and get rid of the insurance industry as it exists now. It just like when you think it very similar to the school system, right? The amount of money that everyone pays when they just want to get healthcare, but instead it goes toward bureaucracy that has nothing to do with anyone's benefit, no societal benefit whatsoever, similar to the schooling system where a huge portion of it just goes to admin, benefiting absolutely no one. It makes me very angry. And I'm going to say this isn't just this one guy who's ruining everything. It is an entire industry that is extremely corrupt that has to be
It's
dealt
not
with.
an entire industry. His numbers were double that of the industry standard.
That doesn't change. But yeah, but even the best of health insurance companies is
The
still...
best health insurance company is Kaiser Permanente, which has a 7% denial rate. It's
right.
also
And Kaiser Permanente is still playing its part in driving up healthcare costs because small doctors' offices have hired additional staff just to negotiate with them, just to lower their, like to maximize their profits. And like this, the whole game created by insurance companies in the health insurance world creates a huge amount of waste. That whole dance. And that's what I hate.
Yeah, I
especially.
agree with that. I just want to push back on this idea of this guy is no different from any other CEO.
He's not. No, obviously he in a pond full of piranhas is the uniquely pernicious and toothy and aggressive piranha who does so much more damage. But
I want to actually flip this back on you in a way that might change the way you see this.
Okay.
He was increasing these practices. We can see this from the data. Every year he was increasing the practices.
Yeah.
You, me, and our kids are on United Healthcare.
Yeah.
How would you feel if, due to him increasing these practices every year, because he was getting no pushback from shareholders, one of our kids died?
Yeah, I mean,
this might have saved the life of one of our kids.
Yeah. Yeah, this could have. I mean, this happening. It's true. And we've already done kind of dangerous things with our family's health because we can't afford.
Yeah, because they denied things. When we had a rabies exposure and we had the state say our kids had a rabies exposure, and the state like CDC gave us a note, not a doctor, the fucking CDC gave us
No,
enough.
not this. The county, but yeah.
The county disease control, it was like the Pennsylvania disease control. Sorry, maybe not CDC. County Pennsylvania disease control saying give this to your health insurance provider, and they said no for rabies. Do you know how horrible it is to die to rabies? Like one of our kids may still die from a decision this guy made because rabies takes about a year to form.
Yeah,
This
I mean,
may have
and
killed
that's
one of
just
our
one
kids.
family.
Just a
Yeah.
heads up.
Yeah.
And the reason why the rabies one is so important is because their deny thing, right? They're like, oh, well, maybe we can get a few more days out of this. Maybe we can get a few weeks out of this. Rabies needs to be taken within 24 hours.
Yeah. We
So
didn't.
his deny thing prevented us from getting it.
Yeah. It was not cool.
So consider that, Simone, when you think about this person's life. And to all of you who, oh, you're such a monster, Malcolm. What if it was your kids? You don't care? You don't care? You'd say, yeah, I'd suck that up. I'd let him take my money, fuck me while my kid died. Sorry, I just have so little sympathy for these deontologists who are deontological in a way that obviously makes them the bad guys.
Yeah, there's definitely a place at which following the rules becomes an inconceivably evil act, for sure.
Inconceivably evil. This guy did a 9/11 every year.
Well, and I think the key thing too is to understand that a lot of people think that as long as they follow the rules, they're not doing anything wrong. And maybe this guy had convinced himself of that. And so he literally thought, well, I'm not doing anything morally wrong. I'm not doing anything
Also did
illegal.
securities fraud, defrauding his investors. He wasn't even interested in fiduciary duty.
Well, yeah, it's,
I don't
But I
believe
mean-
he thought he was a bad person, but I believe that he was the type of person who, if you look at like capitalists, there's like different types of capitalist people. My family might have intergenerational wealth, but it's because often they remade the money every generation. Like, okay, so for example, people might hear your dad run it. He must have been super wealthy and inherited a bunch of money in the company from his dad. Do you know how he ended up running the company? So his granddad, who was the previous CEO of the company, ended up taking $1 million loan out without my father's permission under my father's name. And this is when my father was earning a fairly median salary.
From what I remember at the time, he had no significant savings. He hadn't inherited any money, and he was earning a salary of $60,000 a year.
Yeah, that was...
My father ended up making tons of money because he grew the company a ton, but he would have ended his life in destitution if he hadn't done that.
Yeah.
This is very much like ruthless care. Like, sure, son, you can take over the family company. I'll just go to a banker and give the debt to ensure that you own a majority of shares now without your permission because he knew the banker and it was an old Texas family.
Oh, that's okay. I was wondering how that was even done.
No, they were friends. They were in some club together. And so he just went to the banker and he goes, oh, you don't need to ask my grandson. Just put it on his account right here.
Just put it on his tab. Just
put it on
$2 million. Not a problem. Well, I just had figured that perhaps he'd given your dad a pile of papers to sign, and your dad had just trusting him sign them.
No.
Was it even that?
Down in Dallas in the 1970s
Lord
and 80s.
Almighty, because isn't that's fraud? That's kind of super.
It is fraud. But it's also the way the old boys club worked back then.
Yeah, well, and also like, what are you gonna do? Sue your dad. Do you want to really make Christmases that awkward?
Granddad, by the way, the dad
Your
actually
granddad.
highly disapproved of this and hated the granddad.
Oh, that's nice.
The dad was really nice. The dad was the one who, my dad's dad was the one who became a congressman. His
Yeah.
dad was kind of a dick. The one who took out the debt in my dad's name.
Apparently. Gosh.
Well, because he gave all his money. The reason he got in a fight with his son is because he also, every generation they do this, they gave all their money to charity, and his son was really mad about it. So he bequeathed all of his shares in the company instead of to the family, to the local Baptist church.
Yeah,
That's what the falling out was about. And that's why he didn't give my dad his shares in the company, because his shares in the company were bequeathed to the Baptist church. He took out debt to give those shares to my dad. So you can think of it as horrible, but also it's kind of ethical in a way. Like no intergenerational wealth transfer. You're gonna get fucked. Every penny I've made, I'm giving to a charity I care about. But then my dad kind of did the same thing to me, so whatever. I don't mind it. I'm glad that I don't have any of that weight on my shoulders. You know.
I don't think parents do favors to their children by giving them huge inheritances.
Yeah.
I do think that surprising them with amounts is good if you have the luxury of doing that. Like, I don't think that's going to be possible for us. Also, because I want to be super transparent with our kids and money. But giving them some token amount that might help with the down payment on a house, for example, is huge, especially these days. If you can do that, but something where you get like an allowance, you know, like these trust fund kids that have like monthly allowances that really prevent them from getting jobs, prevent them from growing up. That's bad. So basically like something that might cover catastrophic medical care or down payment on a house, good. Anything beyond that, something that like props up a lifestyle, bad.
Anyway, love you, Simone. I've had a great time talking to you. What are we doing for dinner tonight?
Coconut rice, hopefully better this time because I did both full fat coconut milk and only coconut milk, no water, plus more salt, plus lemon zest. So we'll see if that is better.
Very interesting. Coconut and lemon. That's an interesting flavor combo.
It was supposed to be lime, but we don't have lime, so.
No, I'm just interested. Put the lime in the coconut. You know what I mean?
Work all night on a drink of rum. Come, Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana. Daylight come and me one go home.
We'll see.
And for the meat.
For the meat.
What are we doing? Just another dang
Same
sauce?
as last night, but with, well, we can do garlic again.
I could have picked it up at Walmart, the oyster sauce.
Oh, whoopsies. Sorry.
All right. Well, we'll just do dang and a little bit of.
Well, yeah, if you could get out the sauces you want to use, then
All right. I love you to death, Simone. You are a great wife.
I love you too, Malcolm. You are perfect.
Take the cheese, Toasty.
There's more. It's Titan's cheese? Titan, do you want more flower-shaped cheese?
Yeah. Here you go.
Oh, that's so nice of you, Torsten.
Did you guys shape the cheese?
Yeah.
What shape is the cheese, Titan? That is a dinosaur nugget.
Yeah, and the dinosaur nuggets are falling away. This is my dinosaur nugget.
Titan, you have one in your plate already. Why don't you take a bite? Octavian, what are you doing?
I died.
You died? Can you also eat your dinner? Titan, you like your dinosaur nugget? Something stopped you?
No, something shot me.
Something shot you. Well, you know how to get your hearts back is you have to eat meatballs. Why don't you do that?
I'm gonna eat that.
Good idea. Good idea.